President of the United States. Give it for Ron Paul. It sounds to me like there's a lot of friends in this room, and I appreciate it. But I want to make sure, so I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if you snuck it and you weren't screened. Are there any CIA agents in this room? How about the FBI? The TSA? Good. We're okay now. We're among friends. And you've heard me say many times, I'm fascinated with talking to young people, and I'm glad to see that everybody here is under 30. That is great. But I'm also delighted to come back once again to New York, because I'm always more impressed each time, because there's a lot of people in New York, nobody knows about you, that really care about a free society. I'm delighted. But you know, sometimes what has happened over the many decades is everybody talks about freedom, everybody talks about the Constitution, but have you ever noticed they get rather careless about it once they get to Washington, D.C.? So I want to talk about that favorite subject of mine, what a free society is all about. And it's not all that complicated. To me, it's simply this, that you have a natural right to your life, therefore you have a natural right to your liberty, and therefore you should be able to keep everything you earn. What kind of a president should we have under those circumstances? Does he have to be Solomon and know everything about your life? No. For you to run your own lives, I don't have to be all wise. All I can say is I want to protect your liberties. It's your life. Spend it the way you want. If you do it productively, that is great. But if you mess up, you can't go to the government to get a bailout. Now in foreign policy, I don't have to pretend I know every solution to every problem in the world. I think we should deal with our problems at home and forget about those problems overseas. And I don't have a lot of confidence about entangling alliances, and that starts with the UN, the IMF, the WTO, and NAFTA. So we very simply could just get out. We'd save some money also. But you know, one challenge we get when we talk about non-intervention, minding our own business, bringing our troops home, they'll say, oh yeah, you guys you don't care about our troops, you don't care about defending America. I haven't had a chance, but one of these days I'm going to have a chance, possibly in one of those debates. Why do you ask that question? Why don't you ask me the question, why is it that the active military people send you more money than all the rest of them put together? Maybe it's because they don't want to fight unconstitutional, unnecessary, useless war. So what is the solution for that? We have a problem out there. There's a lot of troops. We have them in Japan, South Korea. We have them in Europe. We have them all over the Middle East. Bring them home, all of them.
Article 1, Section 8.
Somebody asked me, well, when would you do that? I said, as soon as I can send the ships there to pick them up. of the Constitution, the president has the authority to do exactly that. He's in charge of the troops. Now, this would send a powerful message, a message of great peace and liberty, but it would also send an economic message that our foreign policy is going to change, and that just think immediately, if you get those troops home within a month or two, just think of all those salaries that are going to be spent here in this country and not overseas. The foreign policy is a big issue. The people that support the campaign are very, very much endeared to this. On college campuses, they don't want the war. They are young people and they don't want to inherit the burden. So therefore, to me, it is one of the most important positions that we hold in this campaign. And that is a foreign policy of non-intervention, a foreign policy of peace and prosperity and coming home. Some will say that that means you don't care about defense. Would I cut the military budget? Yes, I would cut the military budget. But we have to make sure they understand the difference between military spending and defense spending. So the military budget is just militarism, weapons that we buy to subsidize the military-industrial complex. There are many, we complain a lot about liberal Keynesianism, but there's conservative Keynesianism. They say, oh, building these weapons are good for jobs. Yeah, well, if you didn't spend it on weapons, you spend it on weapons, you send it over seas and the planes get blown up, it doesn't help it. But military Keynesianism is every bit as bad economically as domestic Keynesianism. And one of the most ugly, is a mild word for it, about people who advocate going to war. There are some people have been taught many times in our schools over the many, many decades, especially since the Depression, that we didn't get out of the Depression till we had World War II. That's insane. Of course, it lowered unemployment, but 7 million people were drafted and sent overseas and exposed to war. So the Depression didn't end. Economic problems, and I remember them well during World War II, they were further depressed. The Depression never ended. Till after World War II, the military budget was slashed more than 50%, taxes were slashed 30%, 6 or 7 million people came home, and guess what? We had economic prosperity once again. This idea of liberty, not only does it involve very much coming up with a sensible foreign policy, but it has something to do about your personal liberty. In a free society, you own your life, and like I said, you own and you should be able to keep what you earn. But the government is bound and determined to regulate our lives and tell us how we're supposed to live, because they're a bunch of do-gooders. They think, well, you're not smart enough to take care of yourselves, and we want to protect you from yourself. Now, it is true, in a free society, there are going to be some people who don't take good care of themselves. And I think that's their business, but they have no right to tell somebody else that they have to be taken care of because they messed up their own life. Now, there are a few things in recent history that has made these conditions much worse when it comes to personal liberty and our civil liberties here at home. For instance, in the early 1970s, that famous Republican president by the name of Richard Nixon, who took us off the gold standard, he also invented the modern war on drugs that must end. The big political problem with defending liberty, whether you say that we don't need to war on drugs, is if you say that, then they say how you use your life or what you do in your lifestyle and what your habits are. Therefore, we endorse that. But people who believe in liberty, as long as you practice whatever you want, you don't hurt other people, you don't steal from other people, that's your business. I personally don't endorse drug usage. I don't endorse most of the drugs that regular physicians hand out because they waste a lot of money too. But personal liberty is very important. After 9/11, believe me, our personal liberties have been attacked. For instance, the one bill that we should repeal rather quickly if we care about liberty is the Patriot Act. We have things turned on its head. You know, the government in a free society is supposed to be open. We're supposed to know what the government's doing. But if we have somebody that is a whistleblower and tells the truth about what's happening in government, he's charged with treason. But when it comes to your privacy, which is what the government should be protecting, the government invades our privacy as they become more secret. We need to turn it around. We need open government, and we need your privacy returned to you. The wonderful part about liberty is it's a tolerant system. It is not judgmental, only to the point where you don't hurt other people. But it doesn't tell you what religion you need to belong to, or no religion. It doesn't tell you what books to read. Hopefully, you know that the government doesn't do that. But it also tells people what their habits should be. Isn't it strange that in this country we do relatively well on protecting the right to read and study books? It's relatively free on picking your own spiritual life. But when it comes to your own body, the government assumes that they cannot give you the permission to make up your own mind. Governments cannot protect you from yourself. If they do, they have to do it with the destruction of liberty, and they've been working very hard on that. There was not too long ago, I think it was when we were voting on the Patriot Act, I was sitting next to a member who was getting ready to vote for it. I said, you know, this is going to violate these civil liberties and all. And I said, why do you want to do this? I said, why don't you just leave people alone? He says, they're too stupid. And this is a member of Congress, and they literally believe that. They believe the people aren't smart enough. But I tell you what, I want to tell you a secret. I want to tell you a secret. The people in Washington, the bureaucrats and the politicians, aren't smart enough to know how to run your life either. You know, I've thought of different images about, showing images about the abuse of government on us. And the one image that I think demonstrates that it should enrage all Americans. It is this TSA agent doing some prodding of some guy's groin, and also these x-rays and putting hands down little girls' pants and elderly women. People, I don't know how. If we don't correct that, I don't think we can remain a free society. So we must address this. And besides, after 10 years, they haven't caught anybody doing anything bad. My solution for the TSA agents was very simple. I passed a bill that said that the TSA agents can't do anything at an airport that you can't do at an airport. So if everybody would do this prodding, and of course they'd be arrested for abuse, and yet we sit back and let this happen. You know, today probably the biggest issue, I wish if personal liberty was the only issue and show how important foreign policy is. But everything